The Golden State Warriors are heading back to yet another NBA Finals, extending their dynasty run and solidifying themselves up there with some of the greatest dynasties in the history of the NBA. Their approach to Dallas in this series was nearly foolproof, and they hampered the Mavericks' ability to play their usual style, and they forced them to step out of their comfort zone. I want to examine their approach to mitigating Luka Doncic's ability to impact the game with his playmaking, how they made life difficult for everyone else on Dallas's roster, and the contributions that they got from players outside of the usual suspects of Steph, Klay, Draymond, and most recently Jordan Poole. First things first, let's take a look at their approach to Luka. They're actually more or less okay with Luka putting up his usual impressive scoring numbers. He averaged 32 points per game on 55.9% true shooting in this series. Those are, objectively, some really great numbers. But where it gets interesting is when you take a look at his assist numbers. He only averaged 6 assists per game in this series, and that's down significantly from the 8.7 assists per game he was averaging during the regular season. You can take it a step further and take a look at his potential assists, which is passes that result in a shot. He averaged 14.3 potential assists per game, yet only 6 per night in the series. And while some cold shooting from Dallas has been a factor, the way the Warriors are defending three-pointers has most definitely played a role in making shooters uncomfortable. The reasoning behind this lies in the Warriors' defensive approach to the rest of the roster. Now, they're throwing a lot of box and one at Luka, which we're going to see on this play. The box and one works like this. One player guards the other team's best player, in this case Luka, and the Warriors are going to put Curry on him. Everyone else is going to be lined up in a box, guarding a particular area on the court. It's a type of zone defense. Luka and Kleba are going to initiate the pick and roll, and Draymond is going to be anchoring the interior, guarding the drive as Curry chases him through it. Luka is going to make what's actually a really nice pass to Bullock in the corner, but Klay is going to come over to contest the shot, and it results in a miss. We can see them go with the same type of coverage here, with Wiggins now guarding Luka. Their defensive rotations are nearly perfect, with Klay immediately switching the screen. Klay is going to blitz the pick and roll and force Luka to pass out to Finney-Smith, who drives and kicks it out to Bullock, who takes a three that he's ultimately going to miss. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, these plays are leading to at least relatively open shots, right? The Warriors have done an amazing job at closing out on three-pointers. As a matter of fact, the Warriors are contesting the most three-point shots in the playoffs at 25.6 per game, and during this series alone, that number currently sits at 31.7 contested three-pointers per game. So with that in mind, it's probably not a coincidence that the Mavericks are currently shooting only 32.6% from three in this series. We can take it a step further. The Mavericks are attempting 41.4 three-pointers per game, by far the most of any team in this year's playoffs. When you live and die by the three, you're susceptible to variance, and it's made even worse when you're going up against a team that plays such solid defense. The Warriors are forcing them into a disproportionate amount of spot-up shots, but they're also shutting down the interior really well. We see them running a box and one again here, and when the ball gets swung to Bullock, he's going to drive into the interior, and Draymond is going to come over from the corner, provide some really good help defense, and they're going to get the block. The ultimate point that I'm getting at here with their defense is this idea of flexibility. A team that can play a ton of different ways has an inherent advantage in a postseason setting because they're not hindered by bad matchups. The Warriors are utilizing a zone defense, something that typically doesn't get used a whole lot in the modern NBA because it gives up a lot of open threes, and everyone in the NBA now can shoot threes. But the Warriors are recognizing an advantage that they can capitalize on by using zone defense as opposed to the traditional approach of man-to-man defense. The story of this series has arguably been decided by three-point shooting. In games 1 and 3, the Mavericks shot under 30% from 3, but even in game 2, when the Mavericks shot exceptionally well, the Warriors were able to come out with a win. Now, all of this being said, it doesn't even take into account the offensive firepower that they currently have at their disposal. Obviously, Steph Curry is doing what we expect from him in a playoff setting, averaging 26.7 points, 6 assists, and 5.1 rebounds through the playoffs so far. But as some people have touched on, the things he does and the advantages that he creates aren't always going to show up in the box score. We can see an example of his advantage creation on this play. Him and Looney are going to initiate this high pick and roll, and the Mavericks are going to try and trap Curry. Now, the result of doing so is a 4-on-3 advantage created in favor of Golden State in the half court, and Looney is going to be able to get to the rim for the bucket. Again, here, he's going to drive, and notice all the defensive attention being focused on Steph as he moves to the basket. Meanwhile, Looney is making a baseline cut, and Curry finds him to eventually get the bucket. Now, this play requires a bit more attention, but it's really cool. He's on the weak side with Bullock covering him, and he's going to cut to the paint as Klay gets the ball on the perimeter. Now, Klay is going to take it off the dribble, and Curry keeps moving and actually pulls Bullock out of the paint with him as Klay is driving, and it clears the runway for Klay to get to the basket. Now, I know that Steph Curry's gravity has become somewhat of a meme, but it is a very real thing. It's why people hold him in such high regard as a playmaker, not because he's putting up a ton of assists every single night, but because he demands such an absurd amount of defensive attention, and he can use that to manipulate defenses. And the best part about their offense is that now it's not just Steph, Klay, and Draymond, it's Steph, Klay, Draymond, Poole, and Andrew Wiggins. Draymond is obviously not going to be that much of a scoring threat, but if Steph or Klay have an off night, you have Wiggins and Poole there to put up big numbers if they need to. Let's go game by game with each of their numbers. Game 1, Klay, Steph, Poole, and Wiggins all scored 15 or more points. Game 2, it was Steph and Poole brunting the scoring load. Also worth mentioning, Kevon Looney popped off for an unexpected 21 points in this game. Game 3, it was Steph and Wiggins putting up big scoring numbers. And then in Game 5, it was Klay Thompson with 32 points to put them over the Mavericks to move on to the finals, with everyone else scoring 15 or more points in this game. They're not offensively limited to leaning on one scorer to put up 25 plus points on a nightly basis. They have options, making it not only easier to mitigate the impact that an off shooting night might have, but also forcing the Mavericks to honor 4 different really talented scorers on any given possession. It's why the 4-man lineup of Steph, Poole, Klay, and Wiggins has a whopping offensive rating of 142.4 points per 100 possessions. That is the best offensive rating of any lineup in the conference finals that's played more than 20 minutes so far. No other team in the playoffs has that much offensive firepower to work with, and it's really, really difficult to slow down. It helps that they've been benefiting from some really, really hot shooting during this series. Right now, they're shooting 59.7% on tightly contested shots, the best of all conference finals teams, and that includes 43.8% shooting on tightly contested threes. There's just no way to slow them down when they're shooting at such a high level, despite some relatively tight defense. The overarching theme of all of this is the idea of flexibility. The Warriors are very much not constrained to playing one type of way. They can operate in the pick and roll, rely on driving and kicking, finding smart cutters, hitting spot-up shooters. They can legitimately play any way that they need to in order to win. Real quick, guys, if you're new to the channel, why not consider hitting that subscribe button, leaving a like on the video. It's totally free. It helps me out a ton. If not, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.